Hi, everyone. Welcome to your virtual healthy break on nutrition basics. My name is Lizzie, and I'm a health coach and registered dietitian for Corporate Health Partners. So today we're just going to go through an overview of healthy eating, break down our food groups, give you some recommended serving sizes, and also just some healthy eating tips. So let's get started. So an overview, what should my diet consist of, right? That may be a question that you're thinking to yourself, like, what do I need to eat? If my coach is telling me to eat healthier, what does that mean? So there's three main nutrients that we want to make sure that we get. It's proteins, it's fats, and carbohydrates. Those are called your macronutrients, macro just meaning big. So these are our big groups that we want to make sure that we get enough of. You can see carbohydrates has a kind of a couple subgroups underneath it. Fruits, vegetables, grains, and dairy all fall within that carbohydrate group. On the right-hand side of the screen, that's our My Plate method. If you remember from years ago, there used to be the pyramid, the food pyramid that we used. We got rid of that, we scrapped it since we don't really feel like anyone understood that one, and we replaced it with the My Plate. The My Plate is just such an easy way for you to take a look at your own plate when you're eating a meal and really make sure that you're getting a little bit of each. You can see half of your plate we want to be from fruits and vegetables. Quarter of it we want to be from some sort of grains. And then the other quarter we want to be from protein. You'll see dairies up there at the top as well, so making sure we get a little bit of dairy throughout the day as well. What we're going to do now is kind of go through each of these different groups, talk about them, what they are, what they do for the body, and then really give you some examples of each and recommended serving sizes. So the first group is protein that we'll talk about. Protein is really important, and a lot of us aren't getting enough protein. They're the building blocks for our bones, our muscles, our cartilage, and actually even our blood too. It's also an energy source, not quite like a carbohydrate will be, but still an energy source for our bodies. If you are lifting weights or exercising, it's going to be especially important for that too. Protein is definitely from animal products, but also there's a lot of plant foods that contain protein as well, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. You do want to make sure that you vary these, so get a little bit of both of the animal and plant products when you're eating throughout the week in terms of protein, and then make sure we're looking for lean proteins. So things that are going to have higher fats are going to be more of like your red meat, like your beef and your pork, your bacon, right? All of those are more high fat meat, so we just want to take it easy on. Things like chicken, turkey, fish, right? Those are our leaner protein sources. Beans would be included in that, right? All of your plant products as well. But those are the ones we want to focus on eating more of. So in terms of serving sizes, how much do I need to eat? It's going to be about 3 ounces. Okay, so that could be like 3 ounces of grilled chicken, 3 ounces of salmon. And again, you may be thinking like, well, how much is that? So an easy way to do that is take a look at the palm of your hand. The right in the palm section is going to be about the serving size you want to aim for. And sometimes I get the question, well, like, but how high? Like, how big does it need to be? So if you're wondering about that, think about a deck of cards. Okay, so about the height and the width of a deck of cards is kind of what you want to aim for. And that kind of lets you know at each meal, I need to make sure I'm having something that's about that size. So like we mentioned, there are plant sources and there's animal sources. Okay, lots of important nutrients in these, B vitamins, vitamin E, iron, zinc, magnesium, all are in protein sources. So from our plants, we get beans, peas, lentils, nuts, nut butter, soy or meat alternatives. And luckily there's more of these that are coming out, which is great. So it's worth incorporating these into your daily meals throughout the week. I like to do at least 1 or 2 meatless meals a week. I just feel like it's nice to have something different, number one, but also just to make sure I'm getting some different sources of protein that really help my body. Animal sources, we all know and love. So chicken and turkey, lean beef, fish, eggs, low-fat dairy are all included in that protein animal source as well. So moving on to our fruits and vegetables group, we do want to fill half of our plate like we saw on the My Plate and a couple slides back. So half of your plate should be from fruits and vegetables. Like a breakfast, you're probably going to have more fruits than vegetables. But at lunch, maybe you have a little bit of each, and then dinner, maybe you have all vegetables, right? So it can be either or. We do want to make sure that we're eating a lot of variety of these, which is why you can see at the bottom it says eat the rainbow. All that means is just making making sure that you're getting a lot of different colors, a variety of reds, orange, purples, greens, and yellows. And what that does is it helps make sure that we get lots of different nutrients. Each color contains something a little bit different when you eat those different fruits and vegetables, and also antioxidants from each one. So it's important to eat a little bit of each. Fruits and vegetables can help reduce your risk of heart disease, certain cancers, obesity. And the biggest thing with those is because it contains all these different vitamins, minerals, and fiber that just really help make our body work optimally. A couple other nutrients that it contains, we just talked about the fiber, the vitamin C, but also folate and potassium are really essential nutrients that we typically don't consume enough of. So fruits and vegetables help make sure that we get those. The other great thing is that they're low in fat and calories, so they don't cost a lot when it comes to eating. I tell someone, if you're ever still hungry after a meal, go back for more fruits or vegetables, right? Because they're going to fill you up. They have a lot of fiber, they have a lot of water in them, so they make you feel nice and full and also just give you more nutrients. They also contain no cholesterol. Okay, so if you're worried about your cholesterol this year, or let's say that your lab results came back from the screening and your cholesterol was a little bit higher, fruits and vegetables are kind of your ticket. They're going to help reduce your cholesterol levels, and also they themselves contain no cholesterol. The last thing on here that I'll say is eating these items with potassium in them are really important. Potassium plays a big role in things like blood pressure, reducing your risk of kidney stones, and decreasing your bone loss. Okay, so really important to make sure for that reason too, if you struggle with any of those issues or have a family history of any issues like that, this helps reduce that risk too. So serving size on fruits and vegetables. Okay, the recommended daily amount is 2.5 to 3 cups per day. Okay, or you may have heard 5 servings per day, and that can be a little confusing, which is why we have these two graphics that you can take a look at. So each serving is going to be a little bit different in terms of what you're eating. So you can see it's typically a half cup of a cooked vegetable, and you can see that in the diagram, or a cup of raw equals 1 serving. Okay, so same thing with fruit. Typically you don't cook your fruit, so that's not on there, but like 1 medium piece of fruit, imagine the size of a baseball is kind of what you're aiming for. A cup of canned or chopped, and then 1 medium piece, again, for like a banana, right? So some of the bananas in the store are very large, so just watch the portion sizes on those, but that's kind of what we're aiming for throughout the day. So whole grains is something that I do want to just spend a little bit of time on. Whole grains include lots of different things. You can see the list on the left-hand side. Whole wheat or whole grain breads, bulgur, oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, right? You may have heard of a lot of these. We want to make half of our grains whole grains. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you have to completely cut out if you like things like jasmine rice or white rice or regular pasta, right? Any of those things are still okay to eat, especially if, let's say, you order out and you're getting Chinese food and it comes with just like a white rice or jasmine rice. You're still welcome to, of course, enjoy those, but we do want to focus on getting more of our grains from whole grain sources. And keep in mind that just because a food maybe is brown in color, one of these grains, it's not guaranteed that it's whole grain. So do make sure that you read the ingredient list. Look for whole before the name of the first ingredient. So it should say like a whole grain rather than like an enriched grain or anything along those lines. Look for some of the ingredients that are listed on the left. If it has some of those in it, then it typically means that it's got some good whole grains in it, and that's great. The other thing you can do is look for the little, you see the little stamp looking thing in the bottom right hand corner. Some products that have whole grains on it will have this label. Okay, and that just means it's certified that it's a whole grain source, and you can be comfortable in the fact that it is going to be a whole grain for you. So when we're talking about these carbohydrates or whole grains, what's the portion sizes on those? So you can see a half cup of quinoa or black beans or 2 rice cakes. Sweet potatoes, strawberries, lentils, right? Those are all going to be kind of within this carbohydrate group. If you're, again, at the store or even out eating, and you're like, gosh, I don't know how many serving sizes this is, about the size of your fist is going to be what you kind of aim for. Okay, so when it's sitting on the plate, you want to aim for about the size of your fist, and you'll know that you're getting a good portion for it. So moving on to dairy, okay, there's lots of actual benefits of dairy. Important source of calcium, vitamin D, potassium, protein even, like we mentioned back on the protein slide, this falls within there. Regular intake helps reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, can help lower your blood pressure. Remember, the potassium is really what helps with that. We do want to look for low-fat or non-fat dairy products for maximum benefits. Do keep in mind that we talked about this, but the higher fat animal products, which dairy is an animal product, are going to have more saturated fat in them. And it's the saturated fat that really leads to some negative health effects. So we just want to be careful on how much of that we're eating. If you are a dairy-free person, you can do like a cashew milk, a soy milk, an almond milk, right? They're not going to have the protein that like a regular dairy milk would, but it still has a lot of these great nutrients in it. So serving sizes, the recommended daily amount is 3 cups. So 3 cups a day could look like any of the following servings. A half cup of cottage cheese, a half cup of milk, half cup of vanilla Greek yogurt, and then you can see the cheeses in variety depending on what form you're eating it in. So 3 cups a day, and keep in mind 3 cups equals 3 servings. So it's going to look a little different depending on what you're eating. But serving sizes sometimes varies from like the 3 cups, if that makes sense. It can be a little confusing. One other thing I do want to just spend a little bit more time on is fiber. Fiber is really, really important for not just when we go to the bathroom, but for lots of other things too. So we mentioned this, but it's mainly found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes. It's best known for its ability to help prevent or relieve constipation, of course, but it also helps you maintain a healthy weight and lowers your risk of diabetes and heart disease. The reason it does this is because it takes the body a lot longer to break down something that has all these fiber in it. It just is difficult for the body to do that. Because if you think about it, something that's fibrous can often have lots of strands in it, right? And lots of other positive things that help us just take a little bit longer to break it down. All of these things help specifically for like something like diabetes or high blood sugar. It helps release a little bit slower in the body so our blood sugar doesn't jump up quite as much. There's 2 types of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Recommended daily amounts of fiber, and maybe you've never even thought about this before, but there is a recommended amount. For under 50 years of age, for men, it's 38 grams. For women, it's 25 grams. And this is usually on a food label. So if you wanted to start tracking this or making yourself more aware, these you can usually find on a food label. For over 50 years of age, it's 30 grams for men and 21 for women. So it goes down just a little bit, but energy needs decrease as we get older. So like I mentioned, there's 2 types of fiber, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. And this is the difference between them. So soluble fiber dissolves in water. It forms like a gel-like material. This is the one that can help lower blood cholesterol, blood glucose levels. It's found in things like oats, peas, beans, apples, citrus fruits, carrots, right? All those sorts of things. On the flip side, insoluble fiber is the one that really promotes the movement of material through your digestive system. It also increases your stool bulk. Okay, so that's really helpful for those that maybe suffer from like constipation or chronic constipation. If you are one of those people, this is something that I'm sure that your doctor has told you before, but it's good to keep in mind. It's found in whole wheat flour, wheat bran, nuts, beans, vegetables like cauliflowers, green beans. Okay, so that's a little bit of the difference. They have a slightly different effect, but if you just eat a nice amount of all these different food groups, you're probably getting each of these. So how often should I eat? That's kind of the other question that we get. Now that I kind of know or have an idea of like what I should eat and how much of it, how often should I do that? This is going to be very much dependent on you as an individual and your schedule. What we're going to provide you is kind of just a brief overview of recommendations, quote unquote, but this is going to be different for each person. So we want to at least at minimum have 2 to 3 balanced meals per day. Okay, so like a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. And then 2 snacks. Okay, so the goal here, the biggest reason why we kind of break it down as much as it is we want to eat something about every 3 hours. Okay, 3 to 4 hours. This keeps your metabolism burning so you don't go into starvation mode, start storing fat, or overeat at a meal. right? If we go too long between like breakfast and then let's say we skip lunch and go straight to dinner, that's a really long time for your body to not have anything to process. Typically, the tendency is for us to overeat at dinner because we're starving. So we want to kind of avoid that. That helps us kind of just keep everything in check and hunger in check and making sure that we're getting a little something throughout the day. For snacks, we want to aim to be about 150 to 300 calories. Meals should be around 500 calories. Again, these are all going to vary depending on the individual person, but just some overviews to keep in mind. So a couple healthy eating tips that we have for you guys. Always eat breakfast. We say that, and there's a couple reasons we do. There's been a lot of research that shows eating a good balanced breakfast helps increase your energy for the day, gets you started on the right foot to make sure that you have enough energy throughout the day. It also controls your appetite throughout the day. So if we have something at breakfast, that means we're not feeling like we need to overeat at the rest of our meals because we had something in the morning to kind of help keep us sated. It also speeds up your metabolism for the same reasons we just mentioned. We do understand that breakfast isn't for everyone, and some people just aren't breakfast eaters. So if that's you, you kind of know yourself, but it is important to have something at some point during the morning. Make sure your breakfast contains both complex carbs and protein. Okay, so you can see the little diagram at the bottom of the screen. We take grains plus a fruit or vegetable plus a dairy or protein, and that's kind of an easy way to make a balanced breakfast. The reason we like to do this, we always want to pair like a carbohydrate with a healthy fat or a protein because it goes back to the whole, it helps release a little bit slower in the body and makes us feel fuller for longer. Okay, so imagine if we just ate, like let's say an apple even, you might feel hungry pretty soon after. And the reason is that our body uses that carbohydrate pretty quickly. If we pair it with something like peanut butter or cheese, it takes the body a little bit longer to break that down because now it has more of a long-term energy in terms of protein or fat. And that's something good to keep in mind. Protein and fat sources are longer energy, whereas carbohydrates are quicker energy typically. So pairing them together makes it kind of the perfect combo. A couple other things, we do want to focus on the way we prepare our meals. So cooking your meats by baking, grilling, broiling are healthier options. We want to avoid fried and breaded foods. Moderation is key on those. If you really enjoy some fried chicken, we're not saying you can never have it. Just be careful on how often you're having it. Limit your sugar and salt intake. Sugar, we want to be under 50 milligrams per day. You can ask your coach for specifics on this. For men and women, there's some slightly different recommendations. And salt intake, we want to be under 3,000. Again, that's pretty, that's less strict than even I've seen it. Typically, we want under 2,500, but somewhere around there would be good. The other thing to do is plan ahead. Keep healthy snacks with you, plan for your meals. This is gonna help prevent you from stopping for something like fast food or maybe an unhealthy option at like a gas station, even if you're on the road. So keeping things that maybe don't go bad if you're on the road a lot. For snacks or maybe meals, that's a good idea to make sure we're still having some healthy things mixed in there. Well, that is it for us today, but if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to your health coach. They'd be happy to provide you with lots of more information on any of this material that we covered today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a great day.